One of these men is the captain of this ship. What is your name, please?
My name is Ellsworth Coggins.
My name is Ellsworth Coggins.
My name is Ellsworth Coggins.
Only one of these men is the real Ellsworth Coggins. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. The star of the Broadway hit Mary Mary, Tom Poston, Peggy Cass, Commander Edward Whitehead, and Kitty Carlisle. On To Tell the Truth with your host, Bud Collyer.
Thank you very much, and welcome once again to Tell the Truth, brought to you this week by Salem Cigarettes. Good evening, panel.
Good evening, Bud.
I must say it's a great pleasure to welcome our world traveler and unofficial ambassador from Great Britain, Commander Whitehead. How are you, sir?
Thank you very much. I hope I make a good inquisitor. I have doubts about that.
We haven't. None whatever. As long as you're ready to play the game, and I understand that you watch it a good deal, so you should be pretty aware of it.
I hope I live up to your expectations.
Let's see what progresses now. Will you kindly open your envelopes for the first time and take out your first affidavit card and follow along as I read from mine. I, Ellsworth Coggins, am master of the ship Bounty. The three-masted, square-rigged vessel was built in 1960 from the actual plans used by her original master, Captain Bligh, in 1787. Although she was built of wood, by hand, in the old tradition, the new Bounty, unlike her namesake, carries complex radio and radar equipment and is completely air-conditioned. I sailed the Bounty to Tahiti and captained her during the 9 months of the filming of the motion picture Mutiny on the Bounty, in which the ship plays the title role. In September of 1961, we sailed for home. My crew and I have sailed the Bounty more than 39,000 miles. Signed, Ellsworth Coggins. Three stalwart gentlemen panel, each one claiming to be Ellsworth Coggins, captain of the Bounty. And we'll start this questioning with Peggy Cass. Peggy?
Number 2, where was the Bounty built?
Lunenburg, Nova Scotia.
Thank you. Number 3, after the Fletcher Christian and his men left Tahiti, where did they go?
They went to Pitcairn Island.
Thank you. Number 1, where are the knees of a ship?
The knees of the ship are part of the bracing of the ship. There are hanging knees and there are other knees, too.
Hanging knees?
Yes.
Number 3, did you go around the Horn to get to Tahiti?
No, we did not.
Number 2, did you go through the Panama Canal?
No.
Number 1, what route did you take?
We went through the Panama Canal.
I see. Number 3, did you go through the Panama Canal?
The recreated Bounty did.
The recreated Bounty did. Thank you.
The recreated what?
Commander Whitehead.
Number 1, were you your own navigator?
No.
You were captain of the ship, and what experience have you had at sea?
Well, I was 17 years in the Canadian Navy. I served beginning in September 1939.
Number 2, your background at sea?
17 years in the Canadian Navy, Merchant Navy.
Number 3, were you in the Merchant Navy too?
I was, sir.
What rank did you hold?
At the end of the war, I held the rank of commander.
If your master's ticket?
I have, sir.
Kitty.
Number 1, who is Charlie Lederer?
He is the man who wrote the play, The Mutiny on the Bounty, or the movie.
Number 2, who is the Carol Reed?
Director. First director.
Thank you. Number 3, are there any people left on Pitcairn Island?
Oh, yes, many people.
There are descendants of these
There are.
people from the Bounty. Number 1, do you agree with this? Are there people left on Pitcairn Island?
Oh, quite a lot, but they're quite different from the people on Tahiti.
How are the people on Tahiti?
Warm and wonderful.
The ladies particularly. Number 2, how long did it take to build the Bounty, this particular one?
A little over 6 months.
6 months, by hand?
By hand.
Number 3, is it the same size as the original Bounty?
No, it's not.
Number 2, number 1, were you ever in Seattle?
Were you?
No.
Tom.
Number 2, what are sheets?
Lines.
Thank you. It's nice to know that. The commander of the USS Constitution didn't know it when he was on the show there. Number 3, what does it mean, square rigged? Exactly what does that term mean in relation to a sailing vessel?
Well, the expression is the sails are of square shape. Let's put it that way.
Thank you. Number 3, we heard a lot about Marlon Brando and his work on the Bounty. How did you find him as a person and as an actor? Number 3.
Oh, I wish to reserve comment on that, sir.
Oh, I'm trying to get a good plug for Marlon. I always found him to be a terrific gentleman and a great talent. So
well, we've come to the point now
where
we must mark our great affidavit. So will you kindly do so at once, please? And naturally, without consultation and without changing them, and vote as you do so for number 1, number 2, or number 3. And our team of challengers will receive the customary $250 for every incorrect vote. All ballots marked? Tom, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number 2. Poor little fellow looks like he isn't going to get a vote all night. I wanted to give him a chance to explain later where he did take that ship, the Bounty.
Peggy, what about your vote?
Well, I voted for number 1 because they couldn't have flown it over, and besides, the hanging knees always get me.
Commander Whitehead.
I voted for number 3 because he has a seagoing complexion and that faraway look in his eye, which I believe comes from drinking gin.
I'm surprised you didn't say grog. Kitty, your vote.
I voted for number 3 based on his accent, and I thought he looked rather like a skipper. Number 1 said he'd never been in Seattle, and I was in Seattle this summer, and I saw the Bounty there. So either he wasn't there with the ship at that time, but I know the ship itself was there, and so I voted for number 3.
Very well, there we have it. Now, with our votes in and our minds made up, we'll come to the conclusion of learning which has voted correctly and which have voted incorrectly as we find out which of these 3 gentlemen, all of them claiming the same exact identity, is the captain of the Bounty. So will the real Ellsworth Coggins please stand up? Thank you very much, sir. You want to ask him now how he...
How did he get there?
You're all right, Captain Bly. How did you get from the east side of the Americas to the Tahitian shore?
On the Cape of Good Hope.
Oh, the Cape of Good
Oh,
I forgot about that one, didn't we? Let's find out about the other 2. Now, number 1, may we have your real name, sir, what you really do?
My name is William D. Hersey. I'm from Norton, Massachusetts. I'm a memory expert. I've never been on a sailing boat in my life.
And number 3, may we have your real name and what you do, sir?
My name is Wellington Kennedy. I operate the Kennedy Nursery in Greenwich, Connecticut.
Check the score over, gentlemen. We find that you did a good job of deceiving the panel. You got 3 incorrect votes from them, and at $250 each, that's a nice round fat total of $750 for you gentlemen to divide. And that, of course, comes to you from Salem Cigarettes, and a carton of Salems will be waiting for you on the way out. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us. Good night, and God bless you. Now, in the next 60 seconds, we invite you to come with us into the wonderful land of springtime. Just watch this beautiful film. I present our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Tonya Moffett, and I am from Nigeria. My name is Tonya Moffett, and I am from Australia.
My name is Tonya Moffett. I'm from India.
Very well, panel, you've had a look. Now give a listen as you follow along with your copies of this affidavit. I, Tonya Moffett, am a delegate to the United Nations. I'm one of the few women sitting on the important Administrative and Budgetary Committee of the General Assembly. When this UN session ends in December, I am being sent to work in the Near East. And then in the spring, I will take my post in my country's embassy in West Germany. Signed, Tonya Moffett. Very well, panel. These three ladies all claim to be Tonya Moffett, delegate from her country to the United Nations. And we'll start this cross-examination with our guest, Commander Edward Whitehead. Commander?
Number 2, which city in Australia do you come from?
I come from Melbourne.
How far is it from Melbourne to Perth?
Well, actually, I'm not quite sure, but about 2,000 miles at least.
Were you educated in Melbourne?
Yes, I was educated at the university there, Melbourne University.
And you brought up in Melbourne?
That's right, yes.
In which city do you come from, number 3, in India?
From Delhi.
Were you educated in Delhi?
That's right.
At which school?
Delhi University.
Number 1, were you born and bred in Nigeria?
Yes, I was born in Lagos.
Have you spent all your life there until this job with the UN?
No, actually, I went to school in England.
Which school?
University of Durham.
Kitty.
Number 1, do you know who Marietta Tree is?
No.
Number 2, do you?
I'm sorry, who was that?
Marietta Tree.
No, I don't know.
Do you know number 3?
No.
Number 3, what does Shriyat mean?
No idea.
It's my only Indian word. Number 3, who was the Indian Maharaja who was elected to the Congress recently?
It was a Maharani of Jaipur.
Thank you. Number 1, is Nigeria on the east or west coast of Africa?
On the west coast.
Number 2, who is Mr. Mingus?
I don't know.
I'm not saying it right. M-E-N-Z-I-E-S. All my foreign languages are working tonight. Menzies.
Prime Minister of Australia.
Oh, thank you.
Got him back in office
I
anyway.
got that out.
Tom. Number 1, how was the bond issue proposed in our Congress? How was that to finance the UN?
The
bond issue, the bond that was proposed in our country, how was that meant to finance the UN?
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know whether this is a...
You're not aware of that proposal in our Congress?
No.
Well, number 1, tell me this. There have been nations which have failed to meet their monetary commitments at the UN. Do you know which ones those might be and what the occasions of that might be?
I think France hasn't paid, and Russia, and I think this is... actually, it is to do with the Congo commitment. They are not sure whether they should pay or not.
Peggy.
I have to disqualify myself because I do know which one is the real one because I've seen their picture and I've been at the UN.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I just really do know.
Pretty smug of you, isn't it?
You know?
Well, that brings an end to our voting then, so you all kindly proceed with the business of marking your ballots. And mark them at once, without change, and of course without consultation, especially with Peggy Cass. And vote as you do so for number 1, number 2, or number 3. Are we all set? Tom, for whom did you vote?
Well, I didn't yet.
you didn't yet.
I'll just guess that it's number 2. I think that the real one might surely have known, being on that committee, I think might have known about the proposed bond issue. I was tempted to vote for number 1 before. I think Kitty nailed number 3 with a Shriyut or whatever it is.
And your vote, of course, Peggy, goes as an incorrect one when we total it up. Commander, what is your selection?
My vote is for number 3. It could easily be number 2, but I think number 3 has that serious intent look that comes from working in the United Nations.
And Kitty?
I voted for number 1. They all 3 look like very dedicated and serious young women who are busy with the work of the world, but I think it's number 1.
Very well, then we have a 1, 2, and a 3 spread this, and 1 disqualification. We'll find out in a moment how right or wrong we are as we learn which one of these ladies actually does represent her country as a delegate to the United Nations. So will the real Tonya Moffett please stand up? Well, we're very proud to make your acquaintance. It's a very responsible job that you're doing, and I'm sure you're doing it well. Very, very pleased to have you with us tonight. Number 1, may we have your real name and what you really do, please?
My name is Olu Hollis, and I'm a wife and mother of 3 children, currently living in New York.
And number 3, may we have your real name and what you do, please?
My name is Madhur Jaffrey. I'm a freelance model.
Well, I must say you all did extremely well. And when you check the score, you can be very happy because there was only 1 correct and 2 incorrect, plus the incorrect disqualification one of Peggy Cass. And that gives you a total of 3 incorrect at $250 each. Simple to add. $750 for you ladies to divide. And I know it'll bring you happiness. At least I certainly hope it does. You brought us happiness. This, of course, comes to you from Salem Cigarettes, as does a carton of Salem's on your way out. And thank you for being with us. Good night, and God bless you. Now, everyone, let's relax for just a moment and take a look at this delightful film and discover a whole new world of springtime. Meet our 3rd team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Joseph Grosslight.
My name is Joseph Grosslight.
My name is Joseph Grosslight.
And you've had a good long look. Let's see what we have by way of an affidavit. Will you follow along with your copies, please, panel? I, Joseph Grosslight, a professor of psychology, am currently conducting a series of experiments aimed at disclosing when an infant can and should start talking. To this end, I employ over 40 Myna birds, just like the one I am now holding in my hand. Each Myna lives in an individual cage, especially equipped with a microphone, loudspeaker, one-way viewing panel, and automatic feeder. My student birds are divided into 3 groups. Group number 1 is rewarded for speaking. Group number 2 is punished when they speak. And when the 3rd group speaks, nobody pays any attention to them. I have written up the initial results of my experiment so far in a pamphlet entitled Reinforcement Control of Vocal Responses in the Gracula Religiosa. Signed, Joseph Grosslight. Very well, panel. You heard these 3 gentlemen all claiming to be Joseph Grosslight, psychologist, with friend Bird. And we'll start with Tom Poston. Tom?
Thank you. Thank you, Bud. At a time when Steve Allen was doing the show in New York, and he had Knickerbocker beer on as his sponsor. Remember, he was Father Knickerbocker, the whole thing. Jim Moran brought a Myna bird on, and he had taught it to say, Rheingold. Rheingold. Well, Jim was a little under the weather, and Steve was so interested in watching Jim that he didn't hear this bird say Rheingold over and over and over again on the show. Number 3, what is the Latin name for the Myna?
Gracula religiosa.
I just want to see if you remember.
Now you know.
Number 2, what does Myna mean itself? Where does the word Myna come from?
I'm darned if I know. I'm not an ornithologist. I can spell it for you, but I can't tell you what it means.
Oh, thank you. Number 1, do you actually train the birds to speak?
Some of them, yes.
Well, now, number 3, don't you have to give them all the same amount of sounds coming into them?
Depending on the experiment.
Well, that's what I mean. Well, all right. Number 3, what are the salient features of this pamphlet? Can you tell us briefly what you've discovered about the way the 3... I'd like to find out what happens with the bird you don't pay any attention to. How much do they talk?
When you don't pay any attention to them, they don't talk as much as the ones who are rewarded.
Peggy.
Number 1, when should a child speak? At what age?
I don't believe there's any single answer to that question.
Oh, I see. I thought you were trying to find out when they could and should. Oh, well, number 2, how big a vocabulary can a Myna bird get?
I've actually heard one talk for approaching 5 minutes without repeating itself.
In simple, in declarative sentences or
That
just
is
mush?
correct. Absolutely correct.
Bush.
I mean, in declarative sentences like, I am hungry, I want to go to the store, or get me out of this cage.
Those are thrown in, yes.
Everybody out of the pool.
I see.
This is for the birds.
Number 3. It's my minute. Number 3.
It was your minute. Commander Whitehead.
Where in the world do Myna birds come from? Their native heath. What number one?
Number one.
I'm sorry.
This particular kind of bird comes from Assam and Nepal in India.
Number two, would you regard that as a large, small, or indifferent specimen behind you?
That's a very young bird, slightly on the small side.
Number three, what are the proclivities of minor birds, apart from being able to speak?
Well, they don't walk, they hop.
What else can they do?
They imitate, they're great imitators. They
Number
can imitate
two,
Model 14.
Number two, the same question, what do they do besides speak?
If you don't get to them right away, they'll whistle like crazy all their
Number
life.
one, have you an answer to that?
Kitty.
Number one, what do they do besides speak?
Well, they act like birds.
Number two, will you spell ornithologist for me?
Well, I am not an ornithologist. I'll give it a try. O-R-N-I-T-H, O-L-I-G-I-S-T, I guess.
Thank you. Number three, do you know who Dr. Gazelle is?
Yes, Dr. Gazelle, who recently passed away, worked with children.
And number one, would you tell me what the relationship between the minor bird and the children speaking means to you? I don't understand how you're going to find out how the kids should talk early or late with the minor birds.
Well, you don't really find out about the children as such. What we're interested in is finding out some of the factors that influence speech.
I see, such as rewards or...
There we have it now. You have your own reward coming up by marking your ballot. So will you kindly do so, panel, immediately? And, of course, without change and without consultation, as you vote for number one, number two, or number three. And no votes for the bird will count. All ballots marked?
I'm not marked yet, Bud.
All right, Tom, for whom?
Look, they were obviously so smart that we can't get too much going about the questions and answers, right? So I voted for number two because he never handled the bird. And I think these guys are just shifty enough to fix it that way so that number one had it in the beginning, number two put it on the thing.
Peggy, your vote.
Well, I voted for number three because of the fact that he knew that those birds hopped and all that. You know, I thought birds flew.
Commander, your vote, please.
I voted for number three because he seemed the least evasive, but I was surprised that none of them knew about the minor birds' proclivities as minor thieves. They fly into your window in the Gold Face Hotel and Salon and take anything you leave on a dressing table.
Including jewelry,
Any
money.
jewelry, studs, tightlets, anything.
Kitty, your vote.
I voted for number one. I like the way he explained the relationship between the speech of the children and the birds and what he was trying to achieve.
Well, again, we have a rather widely split vote here. One for two, two for three, and one for one. So let's proceed to the business at hand, our moment of truth, as we find out which one of these gentlemen actually is the psychologist. So will the real Joseph Grosslight please stand up?
It is one.
I got it!
I would like for the record to state that Joseph Grosslight is head of the psychology department at Kent State University in Kent, Ohio. Very nice to have you with us, sir.
Thank you.
Number two, would you tell us your real name and what you really do, please?
My name is Duard Slattery. I'm a motion picture producer with Little Movies, Mount Vernon, New York.
And number three, you got the lion's share, or the large bird share, I guess you could say, of the vote. What is your real name and what do you do?
My name is Dick Edwards, and I write advertisements for the Urbox Bouillon Cube.
He's a very, very young bird and has only been taught a few words so far, I understand. Well, in checking the score, we find, again, that you've done a good hang-up on the panel, as the others two did tonight before you also. There were 1, 2, 3 incorrect votes, $250 each. That's a good total, too. That's $750 from Salem Cigarettes, as well as, of course, your carton of Salem's on your way out. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Hope you had as much fun as we did. Good night, and God bless you. Now, here's how you can get relief of headache. Radio Free Europe is the lone voice of truth for over 80 million captive people. So send your truth dollars, if you will, to Radio Free Europe Box, 1962, Mount Vernon, New York. That's all we have time for, panel. Good night to you.
Good night.
Good night, Bud.
Good night to all of you as well. Don't forget to join us same time next week, and I'll see you tomorrow afternoon on our daytime show. Bud Collier saying good night for Salem Cigarettes and reminding you to tell the truth. Bye.
To Tell the Truth is a Mark Goodson, Bill Codman production.
Celebrities, Wild Charades, Pat Harrington Jr., and Stump the Star tonight on most of these stations. This has been a subliminal advertisement.
To Tell the Truth has been brought to you by Salem, a cigarette that refreshes your taste. Johnny Olson saying goodnight for To Tell the Truth. This program was pre-recorded.